Did you know that 90% of millennials regret their first home purchase, which is insane? So in this video, we are going over why that is and going over the exact system that we use for our clients to make sure that they aren't one of the 9 of 10 people that actually hate their first home. And we've helped hundreds of people with their move, and when a home buyer starts on that wrong step, sometimes it's way too late. They miss out on their dream homes, they end up renting again, paying thousands, or worse, they end up rushing into the wrong house and completely regretting it for years. But this is the good news, it does not have to be you. After using our 4-step system, you'll confidently know where to buy without wasting time on options that just don't fit. And at the end, you're gonna get a free worksheet and neighborhood guide with over 20 Houston neighborhoods so you can actually do it even easier. So let me talk to you about why people actually fail and why they end up choosing the wrong home. So this is what happens. People are scrolling on Instagram, or you're watching a YouTube video and you see this beautiful home and you think, okay, this is it. This is the most beautiful home I've seen. I want it. This is the home for me. You don't even know where it is. You don't know how far it is, or even if any of this stuff actually matters for you. And this is really the beginning of the end for a lot of people. And you'll hear stories of countless people looking at 50 homes before finding the right one, or again, just completely regretting their first home purchase at all. But that's what happens when you don't have a system that you're sticking to. Now, our system, we call it your path to home ownership, and it's 4 key questions that you need to ask yourself before you even dive into looking at houses at all. Instead of just telling you about it, I want to go through 2 different scenarios with 2 different people. Now, let's talk to you about right over here. We have got Chris. Now, Chris is looking for a home, and we've also got Amanda. Amanda is also looking for a home. Now, let me tell you about Chris and Amanda. Now, Chris and Amanda, they both are looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, around $400,000 in Houston. That means they've got a ton of options. You can go to the Heights, Oak Forest, Spring Branch, Cypress, Pearland, Woodlands, Katy, Fulshire, Meyerland, Atascocita, League City. There again are a ton of different options. But once they start looking at these 4 different questions they've got to ask themselves, that list shrinks fast for both of them. Let's talk about the first key question, and that's going to be the P in your path to home ownership, and that is the price versus prime question. What do I mean by that? Price versus prime. So do you want more home for your money, so a better price, which prioritizes size, features, and affordability, or do you prefer a prime location, which prioritizes proximity to key areas and amenities? And let's see what both of these people said. So Chris actually says, look, I prefer more home. So the size of the home and the yard is more important to our family. I can drive if I need to. It doesn't matter if it's in the most prime location. But for Amanda, it's just her. So a massive home and a huge yard is not as important as being in the hottest area from her eyes. What does that mean for the areas? So this is going to shrink a lot of what their criteria is. For Chris, this means he's going to be looking at places like Cypress, Bridgeland, Pearland, Katy, Fulshire, the Woodlands. But for Amanda, that means she's going to be in the Heights, Midtown, Montrose, Oak Forest, Spring Branch, Meyerland, Woodlands, and Sugarland, right? But what does that eliminate? For Chris, it's eliminating a lot of those inner city, so places like the Heights or Midtown. But for Amanda, it's eliminating places that are much further out. You wouldn't consider it a prime location to the city, like Cypress or Katy, right? For Chris, this starts to change things. So Chris gets a nice suburb home in a master plan community like this, whereas Amanda may get a little bit of a smaller property, right? She's got a couple of smaller homes. This one's a townhouse with really not much yard at all. That's the first question that you want to ask yourself, the P, price versus prime question. So what's the next question? It's the A. The A in your path is going to be accessibility. And what does accessibility mean? It's how accessible do you want your home to be to everything else? Do you want it to be closer to the city, so meaning shorter commutes? You want city entertainment, central proximity? I know a lot of people, they tell me, because I live a little further out, they're not going to drive out to Stafford, right? But if you're centrally located, you'll have a lot more accessibility to other people. But the other option on the other side of the spectrum is going to be being further away. So you've got longer commutes, but with more perks in other areas, things like price, kind of like what we mentioned with size, schools, more privacy. And so let's kind of see what both Chris and Amanda said. Now Chris says he works remote. He'd do 45-minute tops commute into the city. Whereas Amanda, she actually commutes to downtown for work every single day. So she's got to be close. What does that mean? For Chris, he's gonna look at a couple of options here. So he's still gonna be a little further out, but not too far out. That means we've got Cypress, Bridgeland, Pearland, Katy, and the Woodlands. About 30-40 minute drive for most of these. Whereas Amanda, she's gonna be looking at much closer. So that's gonna be Greater Heights, Midtown, Montrose, Oak Forest, Meyerland. These are all different places that are not going to be too far from you, and it's going to eliminate a couple things for both of them. For Chris, it's going to eliminate a place like Fulshire. Really, really great area, but it's pretty far out. For people wanting to get into the city during rush hour, it's almost an hour sometimes. So being out there, it's going to have to eliminate it. For Amanda, there are a couple of prime locations in here that have to be eliminated. Things like Sugarland or the Woodlands, which are, I'd say, prime locations. They're a little bit too far. Even something like Spring Branch, which is still close to the city, is much further out from where she wants to be. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the kind of layout of how Houston is. You guys are probably familiar with this, but if you're relocating, this is just to kind of give you an idea. So Houston is comprised of 3 different loops. And I mean, this is a kind of good map to explain that. There's going to be the there's going to be the last loop, the outer loop, which is 99. That is going to be this loop right over here. Now, the 99 loop for pretty much any area of the city of Houston is almost going to be an hour away inside the city. So like Chris, he's already eliminated anything that's 45 minutes plus. Right here where I'm pointing at, that's right around kind of Richmond, Fulshire area, and it's going to be a bit too far for him. Now, the next loop is going to be Beltway 8, right over here. Beltway 8 is going to be one of those areas where it's a good midpoint. You're not necessarily in the suburbs, you're not necessarily a completely urban area, and it's, I would say, 20 to 30 minutes around, if you're in that area, to get into the city. I live in Stafford, which is just southwest of the Beltway, and that's about 30 minutes getting into the city. For Amanda, it still is a little bit too far, and Spring Branch is right at the western edge of the Beltway, which is going to eliminate that for her. But anything within or around this Beltway, like Cypress or Bridgeland or the Woodlands for Chris, still is a good fit for him. Now, let's get to Amanda's criteria, or anyone that wants to be 10, 15 minutes away. This is the inner loop. Now, the inner loop is 610. 610, anything in here, you're about 15 minutes away, tops, from everything else that's within the loop. This is really the area that most people would want to be in if commute is a very big priority. So most of what Amanda's criteria that we mentioned in her A for her path is going to be in this area, or at most just outside of this area. One thing to keep in mind when you're considering, I mean, it's a really big city. Now, let's talk about your next key question that you want to ask yourself, and that's going to be the T in your path, and that's going to be type of lifestyle. The type of lifestyle. When we take a look at things for the type of lifestyle, we've got, do you want to be near the action, which is going to be nightlife, events, bars, shops, or do you want to be a little bit further away and prioritize more suburban amenities like parks, big grocery stores, shopping centers like that? What we see here is that Chris says, I want to be close to parks and things to do for my kids. But Amanda, she actually enjoys nightlife, to catch up and meet new friends that are close by. So what that means is that Chris, wanting to be close to those kind of suburban amenities, is going to choose 2 areas. It's going to be Bridgeland or the Woodlands. Whereas Amanda, she's gonna really limit those options to those kind of hotspots and hubs for nightlife, which is gonna be the Heights, Midtown, and Montrose. What is it gonna eliminate? For Chris, it's gonna eliminate something like Katy or Pearland, which I would say not that they don't have amenities, they've got great amenities, but the amenities are a bit more spread out. And if he wants to be closer for his kids, these two areas that I mentioned would be good choices. Now, for Amanda, this is gonna eliminate something like Oak Forest or Meyerland. Now, these places are very close and kind of match everything that she was looking for. However, these I would consider more like a suburbs within the city. They have more of that family-oriented feel. Things are a bit more spread out, and you're not gonna have that nightlife in these areas unless you wanna drive into the areas that are up here for Amanda. For the bottom option, we see Bridgeland. This is one of the big Bridgeland kind of retail areas, really close by. I mean, it's sometimes even just biking distance away from some of the houses in this area. And then up top, we've actually got the Woodlands Town Center, so there's the Woodlands Waterway, tons of different shops, restaurants, fun, family activities. There's just a bunch of stuff to do in these areas. Whereas for Amanda, we've got the up top right here, we've got the white linen night over in the Heights. It's something every year that happens. Good way to hang out with your friends, catch up with them, meet new people. Really, really fun time. And then also there's Axelrad right over here, which is a nice bar where they've got tons of events, really great place to meet up. And it's just tons of activity in these different types of areas. So these are different types of lifestyles that you experience between the two. And it's important that you're asking yourself that the type of lifestyle that you want to live so that you can be close to those. The next question that you need to ask yourself on your path to home ownership is going to be home value. So for your home value, what you want to look at is, do you want stability? Not having to worry about construction, not having to worry about the risk or volatile home values, or do you want appreciation potential? Do you want more growth, but dealing with development, waiting for some amenities to be built as everything is progressing in your area? Now let's take a look at what both of these people said. Now Chris says, I want growth. Hopefully I'm in early on something that will actually earn him some additional equity. Where Amanda, she says, I don't really want to worry about all that stuff, all the prices, other homes being. So what does that mean from their choices? For Chris, this actually narrows it down to one place for him. Now, remember we had Bridgeland and Woodlands, right? And for Amanda, this also narrows it down to one of the options. And this is why. The Woodlands doesn't have as much growth as what we're looking for in Bridgeland, where there is a ton of new homes, ton of new developments. Chris himself might even be able to get a new home, right? For Amanda, what we're seeing in the Heights, it just seems like there's a ton going on. If you guys are familiar with the Heights, there is just so many new homes, so many new restaurants, so many new developments, so many new apartments. There's just a lot of changes in construction going on in the area, whereas Midtown is pretty established and there's not as much going on with the houses that are being built in the area. So where does that land both of them? Now up top, what we have here is when we take a look at Chris's home, this is a new construction in Bridgeland, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Whereas we've got at the bottom right over here, this is also a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, also around 400 in Midtown. And it's funny, I actually showed this house to one of my clients. They didn't end up choosing this one, but it's funny because this is just a couple of blocks away from all of the bars, cool area. And both of these types of homes, what you don't realize is they are both 3-bedroom, 2-baths around 400,000. And they give you completely different vibes. They're almost 40 minutes apart. And I can tell you right now, if Amanda ended up buying this right here because for some reason she saw it and realized how beautiful the home was, she realized that, oh, I could buy a new construction home. I can guarantee we've had Amandas buy houses like that and just absolutely hate it. I mean, you see yourself driving into the city every single weekend, 40 minutes after work to go to the gym that your friends go to or to go hit up the bar, and it just becomes a point where you don't even want to leave and no one wants to visit you. But that is just specific to her scenario, because we've also had Chris's who have bought this with growing families. And it's not to say that a growing family can't buy a home inside Midtown. It's just that if you're wanting just those types of amenities, it's gonna become a bit of a hassle to get out of there. A lot of these people will end up putting their kids in private school and commuting out of town, and it just becomes a little bit of a tough scenario. But that is why it's so important that you understand what your path is. Now, coming into here, I want to show you guys that this is going to make it so much easier. So we put together a free guide that walks you through these exact questions, along with a few more that will help you decide, plus a complete neighborhood breakdown that shows over 20 different neighborhoods in the city of Houston if you're not very familiar. It's only going to take a couple minutes to fill out, and you will save yourself weeks of second guessing. Now, this is how you're going to be able to get it. Now, if you sign up for our free home buyer seminar, which is happening in April, you will get access to this free home buyer guide as well as neighborhood guide. You'll also get the free invite to our first time home buyer seminar. And if you're watching this after the live event, you will also get a copy of the recording and every single guide through all of these videos that we're going to be posting. So just sign up on the link below. Now, if you're still trying to figure out other real estate plans, be sure to check out this next video right here, because I'm sure it'll help you out.